So this week was the grand final of MasterChef. And the last dish we're going to recreate is Sarah Todds sticky wingettes with sweet and sour gravy. Okay, to start off with, you're going to need to prepare your chicken wings. Now, for this dish, you're just going to need the wingettes, which is, if you can see here, you got the chicken wing, you got the drumhead, and the wingette. It's very easy to do that. You just want to go ahead and just cut that little skin part, and you get it, and then you just pop it, and then you'll see the joint right in here. And you just get your knife straight through, and there you have your wingette. Now you could get your butcher to do this, but I'm going to be making some fried chicken out of these little drumette parts, probably tomorrow, not today. So I'm going to go ahead and get all the rest of these split up, and then we'll jump into the next step. Okay, to make the gravy, you're just going to get a pan, or a pot here in my case, and you're going to get your spices, and you're going to tip them in there, and you're just going to toast these over a medium heat until they're nice and fragrant. Once your spices are nice and fragrant, now if you had a little spice bag that you could pour these in, and then put that into some hot liquid afterwards, you go with that. But I don't have anything like that, but I do have this little tea sieve here. So I'm going to pour mine into here, and then we'll set that into the gravy once we're at that step. Okay, now I've got my spices transferred in my little sieve deal here. Now in the recipe, they use a pressure cooker, and I don't have one of those, so I'm just going to be cooking all mine in this pot here. So I've just got a little bit of oil in there. I'm going to add the tomatoes, I'm going to add my onion and garlic, and my cashews. Give this a little mix around. Now I've got this on a medium-high heat at the moment. I'm just going to cook these off a little bit, and then we'll carry on with the next step. I've cooked this off for about a minute or a minute and a half, somewhere around there. Now I'm going to nestle my little spice deal in here, and I'm going to add about half a litre of water. Or not quite that much. Just enough till it kind of comes up and covers the stuff. So that's been about 400 mils. Now I'm going to bring this to a simmer with the lid on, and I'm going to let that simmer away there for about an hour or so. I'm going to carry on with the rest of the stuff, and then we'll come back in about an hour once I've finished it all, and we'll see how it looks. I've got my wingettes all laid out in a single layer, and I've just covered them with some neutral oil. Now we've got to confit these. It's going to take about 45 minutes. Now you want to keep this temperature on a low heat. It's going to be about 100 to 110 degrees. So you just want to keep your eye on it. As you can see, mine's still climbing up to that temperature. But once it gets there, I'm going to keep an eye on it and keep checking the temperature. Keep it in between that 100 to 110 degree range. Just finished confiting these chicken wings here. I've just taken them out of the pan, put them on this paper towel, and I'm just going to let them cool slightly, and then we'll start the deboning process. Okay, for the pickle, I've already gone ahead and chopped up my tomato. Now I'm using these little mini San Manzanos instead of a bigger one because I like the flavour from these. And also the cucumber. Now the best cucumber to use would be a Lebanese cucumber, but I can't find any of them over here. So I've just got ahead and got a mini cucumber, and I've just cut it in half and scraped all the seeds out. And then I'm going to dice this up the same size as that, and then we'll add the pickling spices. Got my tomato and cucumber all chopped up. The recipe I was reading says pickled mango. Now I didn't ever know this was a thing until I read this recipe. It says use the juice, but it's quite a thick paste, so I'm hoping this is the right ingredient. But this stuff, it tastes pretty amazing. So even if it's not, I think it's going to be really, really good. So I'm just going to add that to this and just give everything a little mix together. Once you got all your tomato and your cucumber all coated in that, we'll just cover this and we'll set it aside until we're ready to plate. Okay, I've had my gravy base bubbling away there for a while, and now everything's nice and tender and soft. I'm just going to load it all into the blender. With the amount of liquid I put in, there wasn't actually a set amount in the recipe. So I had a guess at how much it was. But it's not going to make too much of a difference if you put a little bit less or a little bit more. Because after I blend this, it's all going to go back into a frying pan, and we're going to reduce it to the right consistency anyhow. So I'll just go ahead and pour it all in there. Okay, once you get it all in the blender, I'm going to put the lid on. As you can see, I've left the middle insert out, because with hot stuff and the steam, you could, hurt yourself. Just make sure you leave the middle bit out and you should be fine. So we'll start off slow, and then we'll increase the speed until it's a nice smooth consistency. Once you've got it blended up nice and smooth. Now mine blended up pretty much to the consistency that I was after. So I'm going to add mine straight back into a pot because I'm not going to need to reduce any. Now if yours was too liquidy, I would transfer it into a frying pan, and that would allow you to reduce it a lot easier. But because mine's looking pretty good, I'm going to put it straight back into this pot here. Obviously pass it through a sieve to make it nice and smooth, and then we'll add the rest of the ingredients. Okay, once you got it passed through a sieve, as you can see, there was a couple of little chunks left behind. Once you got it all passed through the sieve, now we're just going to finish it off with the seasonings. So I'm going to add some cream. We'll give that a little mix in. Going to add a little bit of salt, some pepper. Going to add a little bit of honey. We're going to add some butter. I'm just going to stir that in until it's all combined. Okay, once you got your butter all melted in, going to add your sugar. And we'll just keep on mixing this until everything's nice and dissolved, and then we'll taste it and see if it needs anything else. Also, one last ingredient I forgot to say is a squeeze of lemon. So we'll start off with about that much, and we'll mix all this in and taste and adjust as needed. Okay, I just gave it a taste, and because this was a sweet and sour challenge, I'm going to add a little bit more sugar to mine. So I add down a couple of cubes, we'll get this dissolved in, and then we should be good to go. Okay, for the coriander and mint oil, it's very easy to make. In your blender, gonna add your oil, neutral oil, then you're gonna add your coriander and mint leaves. We'll shake a little bit of salt in, and then we'll put the lid on, and we're gonna blend this on high for about 5 minutes. It's about halfway through here. I'm just gonna give it one scrape down, and we'll put the lid back on, and keep on blending. Okay, after your 5 minutes is up, we're gonna take it off here, and we're gonna pass it through either a super bag if you have one, which I don't, but I have a fine mesh strainer. I'm going to pass it through that. After the first pass through, we'll see if it needs to be passed through a second time. I'm going to pass it through my strainer here into a container, or in my case, this little glass. As I said, the proper thing to use here would be some sort of super bag, I think it's called, which is a very fine bag, but I don't have one of those, I have this. So I passed it through this sieve the first time, and I'm still not happy with the amount of chunks that are in there, so I'm going to pass it through a second time. Okay, so I passed it through a few more times than 3. I actually lost count, but each time I did, there's just more and more sediment going to be collected. So I could keep going, or I could have actually tried to find one of these proper bags to do it through, but that's good enough for me. As you see here, got all my chicken deboned, and I've just cut them in half. Now into the pan, I'm going to add a little bit of oil that we confit the chicken in. And now we're just going to add all the chicken back into the pan, just to get some nice colour on them. Okay, as you can see, I've got just a little bit of colour on my chicken. Now, in hindsight, I shouldn't have cut my chicken pieces, but I'm sure it's going to taste just the same. So, at this stage, I'm going to move them out, set these aside, and then I'm going to make my sauce. Okay, now I've got the chicken removed in the same pan. You're going to add the remaining ingredients to make the sauce. So that's some sugar, got some honey, got some butter. So we're just going to get this all melted down, and then we'll add a little bit of lime juice just to balance it all out at the end, once this is all melted. So you just want to keep this over a low heat when everything's melted down. Once you've got everything melted down, add just a little bit of lime juice. We'll mix that in, and we'll give it a taste, and see where we need to go from there. Okay, I'm just going to add just a touch of salt. We'll mix that in, and then that's ready for the chicken. I have no idea why I did, but I cut the wings in half. I should not have done that. So when I was trying to get some colour on the wings, they were sticking to the pan, and I couldn't, grab them because they were so small, so they're quite pale. But hopefully it doesn't affect the taste too much. I don't think it changed too much at all. This is absolutely amazing. It is definitely savoury and sweet. It is amazing. After eating some more of this, I'm still super amazed. It's super refreshing, this dish. I don't know how that works because it's like a tomato, onion. You would think all these super heavy spices and everything, but it is so refreshing. It's like perfect for a summer dish.